Greetings, Magic players. This is Steve from Untapped Games. Today I'm going to open a Fate Reforged Clash Pack. Clash Packs are for 2 players, but you can also take the cards from them. And the way that the decks are designed, you can actually create a something that's closer to an event deck by picking, choosing, combining the light colors from both decks. So we're going to take a look at what's inside. I'm going to mangle the top of this box. Alright, so here are my 2 decks. I have some probably like instructional materials in here. Alright, so I have a rules reference card as usual. I have a divider, I think that is, with the Planeswalker symbol on it. I also have this rules fold out. Oh gosh. Marked it. This is basically going to give me the deck lists on both of these decks, as well as some instructions for how to play them. So there's playing the power deck. The power deck is going to be, looks like it's green and, green, black, and blue, so that's Sultai, and then Prophet is green, black, just green, black. So I'm going to, and that's the Prophet deck, yeah. So I'm just going to guess here that's the deck that these two sort of create a, sort of combine to create like a Sultai deck. I have this standard sized deck holder right here. You'll have to pardon me, my throat's a little sore. Alright, so let's take a look at what we have. I have not checked out the deck lists for these, so we'll have to see what the themes of these are. So right at the top I have a Necropolis Fiend foil. I believe that is alt art. Necropolis Fiend is 7 and 2 black. It's Delve. It has flying. It's a 4/5. For X and tap and exile X cards from your graveyard. Target creature gets -X, -X until end of turn. So he's a nice, permanent that can give you some removal, some recurring removal, provided that you can keep cards in your graveyard. Hero's Downfall, always nice. 1 and 2 black, nice alt art there. Destroy target creature or planeswalker. So Hero's Downfall is pretty key removal in most black decks these days in standard. Sultai Ascendancy, black, a green, and a blue. For an enchantment at the beginning of your upkeep, look at the top 2 cards of your library. Put any number of them into your graveyard and put the rest back on top of your library in any order. So that is, this is looking to be a Delve deck. Keep cards in my graveyard and then utilize them. That becomes, cards in my graveyard become a resource to me. Scuttling Doom Engine, 6 mana for artifact creature construct that's 6/6. Can't be blocked by creatures with power 2 or less, and when it dies, deals 6 damage to target opponent. I'm probably going to be looking to get as many hits out of this as I can and then sack it. That way I'm doing 12 damage for 6 mana. Assuming I can get through once, I can get 6 off of that, and then I can get another 6 when it dies. And that's at the low end of this having a successful attack. Monastery Siege, 2 and a blue for enchantment. As Monastery Siege enters the battlefield, choose Khans or Dragons. If you chose Khans, at the beginning of your draw step, draw an additional card, then discard a card. Dragons, spells your opponents cast that target you or a permanent you control cost 2 more to cast. So you can either tie your opponent down for mana, or you can start looking to filter cards in your graveyard to use on stuff like Necropolis Fiend. Typhoid Rats, 1 black for a 1/1 Death Touch. Satyr Wayfinders, it looks like I have 4 of them. These are for mana fixing. When it enters the battlefield, reveal top 4 cards of your library. You may put a land card from among them into your hand, put the rest into the graveyard. So as you can imagine, that is both giving me, making sure that I'm getting my land drops. So it's not really for mana fixing. It's for making sure that I hit my land drops, but it also puts cards in my graveyard for things like Necropolis Fiend. Sultai Skullkeeper, 1 and a blue. Naga Shaman, 2/1. When it enters the battlefield, put the top 2 cards of your library into your graveyard. So far, I'm not seeing a whole ton of Delve cards yet, just cards that enable Delve. Merciless Executioner, 2 and a black. Orc Warrior, that's 3/1. When it enters the battlefield, each player sacrifices a creature. So a good target for that might be the Scuttling Doom Engine. Assuming I've gotten a little bit of work out of my Scuttling Doom Engine, I can just deal 6 damage to my opponent's face by sacking him to Merciless Executioner. Necromancer's Assistant, 2 and a black. When it enters the battlefield, put the top 3 cards of your library into your graveyard, and he's 3/1. Once more, enabling Delve. Return Centaur, 3 and a black. When Return Centaur enters the battlefield, target player puts the top 4 cards of his or her library into his or her graveyard. So, and it's 2/4. So not only is he a good blocker, but he's also he's usually put into mill decks to mill your opponent, but you can also target yourself if you are looking to enable Delve. 2, a black, a green, and a blue. When it enters the battlefield, look at the top 4 cards of your library, put 1 of them into your hand and the rest into your graveyard. Sultai Soothsayer again. Sultai Scavenger. Here's a Delve card, 5 and a black for a Delve, and he's a 3/3 flyer. So you can theoretically get a 3/3 flyer for 1 black mana if you have enough cards in your graveyard, which is what we're going to look for. I got 2 of those. Gurmag Angler, another Delve card for 6 and a black. He's a 5/5. So I've got the rest. Oh, I think I've got more after these lands. Yep. So Dismal Backwaters. These are basically blue-black gain lands. Gain land is basically a land that comes into play tapped, and then it gains you a life, and it can produce 1 of 2 colors. Evolving Wilds, sack them to search your library for a basic land card and put it into the battlefield tapped, then shuffle your library. I have some Opulent Palaces. They are the black, green, blue, so they're the Sultai colored lands. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 swamps from the Fate Reforged set, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 forests from Fate Reforged, and 1. Oh, looks like I've got some cons in there too. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 islands. I've got a Despise. Target opponent reveals his or her hand. You choose a creature or planeswalker from it. That player discards that card. That's to prevent stuff from. Basically, you want some early turn plays here before you have cards in your graveyard. So Despise is to allow you to set up better by canceling out some of their early momentum, so you can make sure that they're not hitting their ideal creatures with first turn play Despise. Annul, counter target artifact or enchantment spell. It's just some basic counter tech to so I think this actually might be my sideboard here. I think so. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Right, I wasn't sure that I had the sideboard. But yeah, Annul is to, you'd sideboard it against a artifact or enchantment heavy deck. Naturalizes the same thing. Neutralizing Blast, a counter target multicolored spell. Tygom Scheming for 1 and a blue. Look at the top 5 cards of your library. Put any number of them into your graveyard and the rest back on top of your library in any order. So that's just more enabling for your Delve. Sultai Banner, 3-drop tap for Sultai colors, and then 1 of each Sultai color, tap, sacrifice it, draw a card. Sultai Charms, 1 of each Sultai color. Choose 1, target, destroy target monocolored creature, destroy target artifact or enchantment, or draw 2 cards, then discard a card. So that's a good all-purpose sideboard card, because provided they're running mono-colored creatures, artifacts, or enchantments, it's going to be good. Murderous Cuts, 4 and a black for Delve, destroy target creature. So if you're noticing that they have a lot of good creatures in play. well, assumingly they have good creatures, but if they have a lot of problem creatures that could die to destroy effects, then you can sideboard those in. Set Adrift, target non-land permanent on top of its owner's library. That's for getting around stuff like Indestructible or, roping aggro decks. Treasure Cruise, delve, draw 3 cards. This is apparently now banned in Modern, interestingly. Well, not that interestingly. People complained about it, so it eventually got banned. So 7 in a blue, delve, draw 3 cards. Dead Drop, 9 in the black, delve. Target player sacrifices 2 creatures. That can be very useful against stuff like Indestructible and Hexproof. And Herald of Torment, 1 and 2 black, bestow for 3 and 2 black, flying at the beginning of your upkeep, lose 1 life. Enchanted creature gets +3/+3 and has flying, and it's a 3/3 creature. I question the inclusion of that in the sideboard, but I'm assuming it's for trying to shore things up against a deck that gets rolling too fast. An opponent deck that gets rolling too fast, but it doesn't really necessarily key off of a lot of the themes of this deck, because delve is so heavy in this deck. But maybe it goes better with something in here. So now I'm going to go over to the Prophet deck, which is blue-black, or no, green-black. So right off the bat, I have a foil alternate art Reaper of the Wilds. This is one of my favorite things about these, is the alt art cards, because even if I have the cards, I probably don't have these new ones. So for 2, a black and a green, I have a 4/5 Gorgon. Whenever another creature dies, scry 1. Tap 1 black, pay 1 black, Reaper of the Wild gains Death Touch until end of turn. 1 and a green, Reaper of the Wild gains Hexproof until end of turn. So a very good multi-purpose creature for destruction and also defense. Courser of Crufix, for 1 and 2 green, enchantment creature Centaur, 2/4. Play with the top card of your library revealed. You may play the top card of your library if it's a land card. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you gain 1 life. So this is the second, I think, Courser of Crufix that's been printed in a deck recently, and I think it also might be the second alt art one. I might be wrong on that. And a cool alt art Whip of Erebos, 2 and 2 black. Legendary enchantment artifact. Creatures you control have a lifelink. 2 and 2 black. Tap, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. It gains haste. Exile it at the beginning of your next end step. If it would leave the battlefield, exile it instead of putting it anywhere else. Activate this ability only anytime you would cast a sorcery. So what this tells me is that this might be copying a fairly popular deck that's going around right now. There's Reanimator decks both in Sultai and Abzan, and they tend to use Erebos, or Whip of Erebos. So what I'm probably looking at here is some creatures with ETB effects that are like, no, of course Crufix doesn't have an ETB effect, but ETB effects synergize well with Whip of Erebos, because you can just bring them back into play and get double damage off of them. So for 1 and a black, Baleful Eidolon. Bestow, that's 4 and a black to bestow, and it's a Death Touch, and enchanted creature gets +1/+1 and has Death Touch. It's a 1/1 creature. 2 Brain Maggots. When it enters the battlefield, target opponent reveals his or her hand, and you choose a non-land card from it. Exile that card until Brain Maggot leaves the battlefield. So it's kind of like an O-ring that targets something out of their hand. And instead of an enchantment, it's a creature. So interesting card. Leaf Crown Dryad for 1 and a black, 1 and a green rather. Bestow for 3 and a green. Nymph Dryad 2/2. It has reach. Enchanted creature gets +2/+2 and has reach. 2 Grim Guardians, 2 and a black for enchantment creature Zombie. Constellation. Now here's where the ETB effects start coming into play. Whenever Grim Guardian or another enchantment enters the battlefield under your control, each opponent loses 1 life. So if you have a Grim Guardian out, or if you have Grim Guardian coming back with Whip of Erebos, you're going to be dealing incremental damage to them And that happens if you use Whip of Erebos to bring something like Brain Maggot back into the battlefield as well, or Baleful Eidolon, or any of these creatures that have the enchantment creature background here. Another enchantment creature, Noble Quarry, 2 and a green for a 1/1 enchantment creature, Unicorn. Its bestow is 5 and a green. All creatures able to block Noble Quarry or enchanted creature do so. Enchanted creature gets +1/+1. This could be a nice thing to bring out with the Whip of Erebos, just to get through a lot of damage. If you have other creatures in play and you're tapping and attacking with your hasted Noble Quarry from Whip of Erebos, then all your other creatures are going to be getting through, which is nice. Oakheart Dryads, 2 and a green for enchantment creature, Nymph Dryad with Constellation. Whenever it enters the battlefield, or another enchantment enters the battlefield under your control, target creature gets +1/+1 until end of turn. So this enables some pretty big plays, and it's a 2/3 creature in its own right. Nyx Weavers, 3 of them. I'm assuming these are pretty key cards to the deck. So for 1, a black and a green, you get a spider that's 2/3 with reach. At the beginning of your upkeep, put the top 2 cards of your library into your graveyard. Exile Nyx Weaver for 1, a black and a green, and exile it. Return target card from your graveyard to your hand. So cool thing about these is that they're enabling my whip. Grave Robber Spider, for 3 and a green, I have reach 2/4. 3 and a black, Grave Robber Spider gets +X until end of turn, where X is the number of creature cards in your graveyard. Activate this ability only once each turn. So this also gets enabled by my large growing graveyard. Loathsome Catoplepus, Catoblepus, Catoplepus, I don't know. I'm sure that there's some debate. 5 and a black for a 3/3 beast. 2 and a green gets me the following ability. Loathsome Catoplepus must be blocked this turn if able. When Loathsome Catoplepus dies, target creature an opponent controls gets -3/-3 until end of turn. Yeah, so that's pretty cool. Nemesis of Mortals, 4 and 2 green. It costs 1 less to cast for each creature card in your graveyard. Once again, things like that spider that's enabling this, as well as my whip. Its ability is 7 and 2 green for Monstrosity 5. The ability costs 1 less to activate for each creature card in your graveyard. So he starts off as a 5/5, goes up to a 10/10, and we got another one of those. So I'm assuming that's going to be a major damage dealer. I have 2 Jungle Hollows. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 swamps, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 forests. I have 2 Dark Betrayals on my sideboard to destroy black creatures. I'm assuming that these sideboards are not necessarily optimized versus a wide array of other decks. They're really just I think that they're splitting cards among these sideboards that could go well in either deck. So, like I said in the beginning of the video, these decks are meant to be mixed and matched with each other to make a single deck. So I'll take, some cards from one, some cards from the other, build a 60-card standard deck, and then I'll have something that's a little bit more well-rounded than either one of them is individually. I have a Font of Fertility. It's an enchantment. 1 and a green, sacrifice Font of Fertility. Search your library for a basic land card, put it into the battlefield tapped, then shuffle your library. So this is some mana XL. Vine Wefts, 2 of them. Enchanted creature gets +1/+1. For 4 and a green, return Vine Weft from your graveyard to your hand. Debilitating Injury, 1 and a black. Enchanted creature gets -2/-2. It works as some cheap removal for things like the morph creatures that are, relatively common in this format. Commune with the Gods, 1 and a green. Reveal the top 5 cards of your library. You may put a creature or enchantment card from among them into your hand, put the rest into your graveyard. So that's a good card for fishing out creatures and enchantments that are going to enable my constellation effects, and they also put more stuff into my graveyard that act as targets for things like Nemesis of Mortals and Whip of Erebos. I have 3 of those in my sideboard. Defend the Hearth, 1 and a green. Prevent all combat damage that would be dealt to players this turn. It's a nice fog effect. 1 and a green for a plummet. Destroy target creature with flying, of course, against flying heavy decks. 2 and a black gives me Nyx Infusion. Enchanted creature gets +2/+2 as long as it's an enchantment. Otherwise, it gets -2, -2. So that's a dual purpose card. Either buff my creatures, which are mostly enchantment creatures, or I'm destroying a 2/2 or less. Reviving Melody for 2 and a green. Sorcery, choose 1 or both. Return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand, and or return target enchantment card from your graveyard to your hand. So if you throw something into your graveyard you didn't necessarily mean to, with one of your something like the Nyxborn Spider or whatever that was, this guy, Nyx Weaver, then you can fish that back out of your graveyard. I mean, hopefully your deck is popping like it should, and that's not an issue, but I guess that's why it's in the sideboard rather than the main deck. 1 and 2 black, enchantment creature Horror. It starts 0/0. It can bestow for 2 and 2 black. Night Howler and enchanted creature each get +X/+X, where X is the number of creature cards in all graveyards. Obviously that combos well with all that creature, all the graveyard filling that I'm doing. Eidolon of Blossoms, 2 and 2 green. Constellation, whenever Eidolon of Blossoms or another enchantment enters the battlefield under your control, draw a card, and it's 2/2. The interesting thing about this, even though this is a good card, the Constellation effect might, added with all the other stuff that's putting things into my graveyard from my deck, has the possibility of decking myself. So I might want to be careful with this card. Not that it's not a good card, but it's something to keep in mind. And Doomwake Giant, I'm actually surprised to see this in the sideboard. I think it's probably main deck material. 4 and a black, enchantment creature Giant. Constellation, whenever Doomwake Giant or another enchantment enters the battlefield under your control, creatures your opponent's control get -1/-1 until end of turn. It's 4/6. So not only is it a huge body, but it's also a card that is going to wipe my opponent's battlefield while keeping my own intact with all of the various effects that I have going for me. Like, if I added more Whips of Erebos, I could get some crazy stuff going on with Doomwake Giants. So maybe this is just popped in here to suggest that to somebody who's looking to expand these decks and build a better deck out of them. All in all, I would say, yeah, the Reanimator combined with the Sultai Delve may not be the Delve heaviness of the first deck. You probably would want to cut back a little bit on, not completely, because Delve is a useful mechanic even if you want to keep stuff in your graveyard. But you're going to have to make a decision between these two decks about whether you want your graveyard to be full or empty. So Delve is going to make your graveyard be pretty empty, and whereas that gets awkward with cards like, let's go through here. Well, the Whip of Erebos, of course, which is right here. That wants a nice full graveyard. And then, what was my other? Oh, Nemesis of Mortals wants a nice full graveyard. Grave Robber Spider wants a nice full graveyard. So yeah, you're going to have to kind of choose one way or the other whether to go further towards the profit side of things and have big graveyards, or the power side of things and use your graveyard as sort of an engine of cheaper costed cards. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. If you have any questions about the deck or the decks, or a deck that you might put together, you can leave them in the comments below. I'm not the greatest Magic player in the world, but I can probably answer some basic questions if you're new. Other than that, I hope you enjoyed this, and stay tuned for more Fate Reforged stuff to be open coming soon. Take care, guys.